Hey guys, such an interesting video in Wild Rift. So we're back with a Rakan updated complete guide. Now it's really kind of funny that we're kind of tackling Rakan of all people. Of course, we just had the new patch 4.2 released a couple of days ago, and of course I've been really excited about it. And I've of course been testing a lot of the latest ADC builds and etc. But this gameplay is actually from the day before the patch, just a couple hours before the patch, same as like the Twitch video that we released yesterday. And today we're going to be talking about Rakan, and the main reason why we're going to be covering Rakan and his updated build is because of the change he got in, I believe, is patch 4.1b. So like 2 patches ago at this point. I'm going to put up the changes on screen. So basically, we used to go for a full AP Rakan build. Like I'm talking about like Ludens into Death Cap, or like Rod of Ages into Death Cap kind of build. But as you guys can see here, we have 2 huge nerfs to Rakan. Now the first one comes in the form of his W. You have its cooldown being increased quite significantly at all ranks except the first one. And even worse still, you have his damage on his grand entrance being reduced. Now, its base damage is going down at the later ranks, and at the max rank it's going down by 15 damage. But what's even worse is it's going down by 15% AP. So it's going from 70% to 55%, and on your battle dance it's also going down by 15%. So it's going from 80% to 65%. So what it basically means is that the full AP Rakan build is kind of a lot worse. But the kind of issue with Rakan in Wild Rift is Rakan is half engager and half enchanter. You have like your Q for poke and healing, you have your E for shielding and mobility, but you also have your W for engage and your ult for engage as well. So you're kind of like a half enchanter, half engager. You can't really build full tank because you're not really meant to tank anyway. You want to go in, engage for your team, and get back out using your E or even flashing or proto-belting out. You don't want to stay there to tank for your team, so building tank is kind of useless. So you have to build AP. However, if you build like an enchanter, like you build items like Ardent Censer or Staff of Flowing Water, it doesn't make sense either, because you only have really one reliable form of shielding / healing, which is your E, which you can cast on 2 different allies. And you can really only cast it on 2 allies and only apply the effects to 2 people, unless you're taking something like Fawn of Life or something like that. And of course your Q does also heal, but it's a very non-reliable form of healing because you do have to hit it on your enemy, and it's not always the easiest to hit without putting yourself in danger. So what's the solution for that? Well, I'm glad you asked. We're going to go straight into the build to find that out. But of course, before that, sort of like just a small announcement, of course, to look at the previous Rakan complete guide, to of course take a look at his skills and leveling order. So here we have his new AP build. So some things have stayed the same, some things have changed. So first up, of course, we take Relic Shield. That has not changed. Of course, you normally play Rakan in support. So you do take the Relic Shield for a little bit of health, but mostly of course for proccing onto the minions and to get the goal off of that, and also to help your ADC in wave control. So now, instead of going for Rod of Ages or Ludens as a first item, we're now going to go for Imperial Mandate. Now, the main reason we're going for Imperial Mandate and going for this sort of still AP but less so AP damage, more so utility build, is because even building full AP, you can no longer really one-shot people unless you're obscenely far ahead. So last time with something like a Ludens, Death Cap, and Oblivion Orb, you could one-shot the enemy ADC. You can't do that anymore since his AP ratios are now lower. So we're going to compensate by going for more utility items like Banshees and Mandate. So Mandate as a first item gives you a bit of health for survivability, gives you a little bit of AP to start off with, and gives you the ability Haste to of course get your important spells like your W and your E off cooldown faster, which is really important. So of course this also gives you utility in the form of movement speed and also more damage on its passive. So of course when you first apply the Mandate, mostly using your either your ult or your W, you're going to deal a little bit of bonus magic damage, and when those marks are being procced by your allies, this will once again reapply damage and also grant movement speed. So this is really useful for Rakan. Rakan can apply this easily on the entire enemy team using his RW combo. Next up, you go for Proto Belt, and you go for Ionian Proto Belt. Once again, ability haste, very important stat for Rakan, especially with the longer cooldown on W, and you want to get your W as well as your E up as often as possible. So you go for the Proto Belt to achieve that goal. And the Proto Belt the dash is really useful because Rakan cannot alt flash. It's sort of something that they disabled. You can only flash after a 1-second delay, so you can't alt flash. But what you can do is you can alt proto belt. So this comes in very handy in two instances. Number one, you're standing right next to an enemy, you alt proto belt straight into their face, and then you follow up with a W. Number two, you're really far away. You can do something like alt proto belt E flash into the enemy team or something like that. You know, you can use any kind of combo of your like mobility spells being your proto belt flash and your E and your W as well. So you have a lot of ways to you can engage on Rakan, literally limitless, not literally, but almost limitless ways through the combination of spells and depending on where your allies and enemies are at. So now we get into Luden's Echo. So Luden's Echo of course gives you a huge amount of AP, 85 AP, gives you a little bit of mana, which sort of, you know, it's sort of nice but not the most important. More ability haste, which is of course important, and of course the passive, which of course does a little bit of bonus damage to the enemy you hit as well as the few enemies around them, which of course helps you with your burst. So next up, we like to go for Banshee's Veil. Now, Banshee's Veil actually gives you a really decent amount of AP, especially for its cost. It gives you 75 AP, which is almost as much as Luden's. Gives you 40 magic resist as well as 15 ability haste. Now, the magic resist generally is not too important. Of course, if you're against a heavy magic damage team, it's going to be you know, really useful. But I even built this against, you know, full AD teams. And the reason you want to get this is of course for the good stats for money ratio and also for the annul passive, which of course gives you a spell shield that blocks the next hostile ability. Now this has two uses. The first one is of course before you engage, you're gonna have to fish for an engage, so you sometimes can get poked out. This is going to of course prevent you from actually getting poked out from one or two of the enemy spells, depending on if you can get it up again. And secondly, if you happen to come in from behind with the engage, this is going to protect you in the sense that when you engage, the enemy team is not going to be able to CC you and lock you down, which allows you to escape a lot more easily, which is really important. And finally, we top it off with a Death Cap, which of course increases your AP by 40% as well as gives you 110 AP. Now of course, at this point, when you're done with this, you can of course sell your Relic Shield and get another item. Now what is your other item? It's going to be just another AP item, so it could be a lot of things here. It could be like an Oblivion Orb, it could be like a Crystalline Reflector, it could be like a Void Staff. Now don't go for Amaranth Twin Guard. I did try that once, it wasn't very good. Of course don't go for Out of Ages at the very end. But basically it's probably going to be like something like Void Staff, Crystalline Reflector, or the Infinity Orb. You could even go for something like Awakened Soul Stealer, that's also a possibility. And you could even go for some enchanter items or whatnot if you so choose, but this is kind of the main build. And for the runes and spells, it pretty much remains the same. You still go for Electrocute for that burst, because you can still burst down squishy targets, you just can't one-shot them, so you normally need a little bit of help from your team to finish them off. You'll see it a little bit later in the gameplay. We go for weakness, of course, to increase the damage enemy champions take by 5% when you CC them. This, of course, works with your Alt W combo. So when you ult them and you W, your W is going to do bonus damage, and of course your whole team is going to do bonus damage as well, which is kind of the main point. Now I like taking Bone Plating for the anti-burst, but I have seen a lot of other Rakan players take a whole host of other spells on Rakan, like Nullifying Orb, like Second Wind, like Hunter Titan, but I personally still think that the Bone Plating is the best. And finally, I like to go for Hunter Genius for even more ability haste. This also could be changed out for items like Sweet Tooth or Nimbus Cloak if you prefer those. And for the spells Flash and Ignite, or rather I should say Ignite and Flash, kind of tapping the wrong one as I'm saying, but yeah, so Ignite helps you to secure kills in lane and in game, and you will see that there are multiple instances in this gameplay where without Ignite we would have missed out on some kills. So anyways, with all that out the way, let's move on to talking about the gameplay itself. Alrighty, so now moving on to the gameplay itself. Now, as usual, don't forget to, of course, like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will, of course, be addressing them. Alrighty, so now we're going to talk about, the new... Technically, it's still full AP Rakan. Every item still has AP, but it's not full AP, like, burst damage Rakan. Now, in case you guys didn't listen at the start of the video, this was recorded in the previous patch, just a couple of hours before patch 4.2 was released. So you'll still see the ADCs go for the old items, so that's kind of irrelevant. But Rakan's build isn't going to change in this patch anyway, so I think it's still really relevant in the current patch. So basically Rakan, his main role in a team is normally he's the team's engage. So normally your job is to go in, engage, and get back out. So that's why the full AP burst build makes sense, because you're not going to be sticking around to take damage. If you're going in and not coming back out, you're playing Rakan wrong, because Rakan is not meant to be a tank. Even if you build full tank, you're not going to be able to tank that much damage, because Rakan is not designed to be a tank. It's the same story as, for example, if you build an ADC full tank. You're going to be tanky, but you're not going to be as tanky as a tank, because you're not meant to be a tank. So anyways, here you can see that, you know, Tristana's fighting in lane, making use of her level 2 power spike, so I'm helping her out by going in and getting off a little bit of CC as well. And of course, on the flip side of that, Rakan isn't an enchanter either. So he does have the heal, he does have the shields, but the shields does give enchanter capabilities, but it's more so for mobility, like you guys can see here, dashing to the Tristana to jump in and then dashing back out. That's more so what it's used for, compared to simply just using it as a shield. Like if you're using it only to shield your allies, I wouldn't say you're playing Rakan wrong. There's some instances that your ally just needs that shield to survive the ignite or something like that, but in general you should be using it for mobility as well. And your Q, of course, is just as much for poke as it is for healing. So anyways, here we conduct a easy simple dive on Tristana with the electrocute still up. Really simple for me to just go in there, you know, with the W, auto attack her twice, proc the electrocute, get the kill, and flash back out. Now honestly, if Galio wasn't walking back to lane, I wouldn't have needed to flash there. The reason why I flashed was if Galio chose to E-flash forward, I would get CC'd under tower and I would die. Of course, chances of that happening are unlikely, but since it's a possibility, it's best just to flash and not be too greedy with it. Alright, so anyways, here, honestly, this gameplay, we're gonna see a lot of what Rakan can do. So I'm gonna just point out what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Rakan is one of my go-to supports. Now, aside from the obvious ADC supports like Ashe and Senna, who obviously are my two main / best supports, because I am an ADC main after all. But you can't really pick an ADC support in every team comp. Sometimes you need an engager, sometimes you need a tank, etc. So I can't always play those, so Rakan is kind of my go-to when I need someone to engage. Now arguably Ashe can engage with her arrow as well, but it's not the same as Rakan getting a 4 or 5 man engage in a team fight. So in this game I chose to go Rakan because my team is kind of like an all-in team. Like Vi ults in, Fizz ults and goes in, Tristana jumps in, and Set also can kind of ult in or go into the middle of a team. So my idea here was, as we once again dive the Jinx, my idea here was to go in with my team, and I can't really go in with my team on like my other support picks. I could of course just let my team go in, stay back, and you know, go about my business, but with a Zed and a Kha'Zix on the enemy team, I wasn't gonna be playing Senna or Ashe, because that would be asking for trouble. Anyways, here me and Tristana end up overstaying a little bit, get collapsed on by both Kha'Zix and the Zed, and overall we both end up dying. However, Vi and Fizz are on the rotation to sort of try to avenge our deaths. So of course, textbook mistake of not sticking around for too long, especially when you don't have vision of the mid lane and the jungle. But thankfully, it looks like you know, Vi is on the case, blocks the Galio, E manages to finish off the Galio, and folds up with the ult onto the Jinx. In the meanwhile, Fizz is in a 1v1 versus Kha'Zix, where Kha'Zix gets the kill on the Fizz and goes on a rampage. Vi barely wins out the 2v1 and ends up killing Jinx as well. In the meanwhile, me and Tristana are back in the lane and coming off the revive, of course, and Kha'Zix has to back because he's 1 HP. Now, ironically, this leads to us simply going to the tower, bonking it, and getting tower plates for kind of no real good reason, which was kind of the mistake that we made that caused us to die just now. Anyways, Dragon is coming up, so we of course do want to contest it. Now, one of the other uses of Rakan that I didn't really manage to do in this video, but it is one of the best uses of Rakan that most people don't know about, is to body block spells for your body block hooks for your team. Now here, Kha'Zix thinks that he's really strong, which he is, but he cannot fight us 2v1 because he doesn't have the isolation damage, and with the help of my electrocute, I do manage to kill Kha'Zix. Now of course, I ideally would have wanted Tristana to get that kill, but the electrocute prop meant that, you know, I was gonna get the kill there. And here we're going to follow up with a Vice engage with a W to CC the Jinx and secure the kill on her as well, and then use our mobility to get out, which is of course what I was mentioning, that how Rakan is meant to be played. You can see in this fight in particular, we're going in, going out, going in, going out whenever we have cooldown. Sometimes you get 2 to 3 rotations of your W, you know, in a single fight. Now here, because there's a ward in the pit, Jinx gets the snipe onto the Vi, and I'm put at critical blinking HP, and the best course of action here is to back, because if we stick around, we would probably end up leashing the dragon for the enemy team to secure, so we don't want to do that. We want to back, restore our health, wait for Vi's to respawn, which is of course right here, and then we can go back to the dragon, of course, to contest the dragon. So just now what I was trying to say is that one of the best uses of Rakan is to tank a hook. For example, if there's a Blitzcrank on the enemy team, you want to be standing in front of your ADC. Tank the hook for your ADC and then dash back to the ADC using your E. In fact, you could even dash back with your E, go back in with your W again on the enemy team, and then again dash back on your ADC. So Rakan has one of the most insane mobilities in the game, especially later on when you get your Proto Belt as well. You have a Flash, a Proto Belt, a W, and 2 E, so that's like, you know, countless dashes coming off of Rakan. So here, Zed pretty much makes the same mistake as Kha'Zix. He underestimates the damage of Rakan. Now, you can see here that Rakan can't really one-shot people anymore, especially since I'm going for Imperial Mandate and not Ludens. But you can still burst down a large portion of the enemy's HP, which is kind of the main point of going for this like semi-bursty AP build. You want to be able to like chunk the enemy like by half or 3/4 health to let your team finish them off. Here, you can see that there's not a lot of chunking on the Jinx because of the Galio ulti, which is a little bit unavoidable here. Vi goes in and I try to follow up with the Q, but Jinx ends up flashing away. Instead, I try to help out peeling the Zed off of my Tristana. Tristana goes ham and ends up going a little bit too deep in my opinion, and we're, you know, on the run. Now here, Galio gets a nice 2-man taunt, really difficult to escape here. Now here, I know I'm dead. I'm trying to desperately escape, but I do think that, you know, this is kind of a dire situation. I end up popping literally everything to try to escape. And here, unfortunately, Fizz does not help me by going in, and instead waits for me to die and then goes in like 1v2, 1v3 here, and then he ends up dying as well. Now, I'm not really sure what the play was here. I thought that either number one, he should have gone in when I was alive, or he should have just backed all the way off. Now, I wouldn't be upset if he decided to leave me to die and back all the way off, because after all, I was 3v1 even under tower. That's still pretty bad. So I wouldn't mind if he just ran away. But the fact that he decided to go in only after I died means that, you know, he might as well have gone in when I was alive. So anyways, that's not too good. So now looking at our team overall, we have a 0, 5, and 0 set. He's not doing too hot. Whereas me, Tristana, and Vi are doing pretty alright. Fizz is 2 and 5. He's doing okay, I guess. So here, I'm using everything on the Mundo together with the Tristana because Mundo has a huge shutdown. He was, before this, 5, 0, and 3. Now, of course, afterwards, he's now 5 and 1. Tristana gets the shutdown, you know, as intended, and I get 350 gold for my efforts. Now, here, look at what we're doing here. We see Kha'Zix, so we're both walking toward each other, making sure that we are not isolated. Kha'Zix face checks the bush, tanks my full combo as well as Tristana's damage, and he dies. Now, here, I'm trying to recall again. Now Tristana, I spot Tristana recalling, I spot the Zed, now I'm here ready to rejoin up the Tristana. I see Zed ult, so I'm CCing him to try to prevent him from doing too much damage to Tristana. Unfortunately, Tristana dies. However, because she managed to charge the bomb up on the Zed, I let the bomb pop and Tristana picks up the kill post-mortem. So anyways, here we're going to pick up the Luden's Echo and we're going to head back out into lane. So you can see Rakan is a really slippery character, and you know, he can get in and out of fights really easily and combos very well with characters like Tristana, who of course also wants to go in, and of course basically my whole team kind of all wants to go in. So it's kind of a really ideal game to play Rakan. Now of course the flip side of this game is that now me, Tristana, and Vi are kind of ahead. Fizz and Set aren't really, but 3 of us are ahead. In a alternate reality where all of us are behind, this team comp is going to be absolutely horrible to play, because a all-in kind of team comp where you're behind is a kind of team comp that is impossible to play and really difficult to come back on, because you have to full commit to the enemy team in order to do damage, and in such situations it's really difficult to really do anything. So anyways, here we're gonna have a huge fight at the Herald, and of course as a Rakan, we're gonna see if we can help to either engage for our team, or in this case follow up if someone else on our team like Vi or Fizz ends up engaging for our team. So here our team is kind of split. Some people are in mid lane, some people are at the Herald. Here enemy team is also kind of split. Here Fizz goes in with the ulti, doesn't really hit anybody. Galio tries to come in to defend. And here I'm just waiting for an opportunity to go in on some priority target. I decide to help Vi secure the Herald, and we do. The Mundo comes in, I end up CCing him. So now, I actually still have my ulti, I still have like my flash, ignite, everything. I'm waiting for my W to come back up so I can burst somebody. So here, my W comes back up. I turn on the ult, go in and destroy the Zed. And here I was actually trying to go on to other people, but I get CC'd. So here I'm going to hop out using my mobility. Once again, hit the Q for the heal. I'm gonna try to pro the belt out. Unfortunately, Jinx's Rakan manages to lock on before I managed to get in the bush, and therefore in the end I managed to die. But the good news is that somehow throughout this entire mess, Set has picked up a number of kills, and from 0, 5, and 0 he's become 4, 5, and 2. So now actually becoming useful and scaling up. He even has more gold than the Vi who was fed previously. Now, during this time, we've all died. I have secured the Herald, and the Dragon is now up. So obviously, the next logical course of action is, of course, to secure the Dragon. So Vi goes in on the Dragon, the rest of us are respawning, and, of course, making our way to the Dragon. And here, of course, once again, we're waiting for an opportunity to go in. I'm waiting for people to group up or something to really happen. I don't want to just go in willy-nilly. So here I see two people grouped up. I go in with the Alt W combo, and my team manages to finish them off. And of course, we also secured the kill onto Zed prior to this. I popped the Herald down in the mid lane with only Jinx and Kha'Zix left to defend. They are both really squishy people, so if they decide to overstep like this, for example, I can easily go in and we can pick up the kill. So Jinx goes down, only Kha'Zix is left to defend. If he walks up too far, he's gonna suffer the same fate. Herald gets off 2 charges and then gets off 3 onto the inhibitor. So triple tower secure, out of nowhere, and even almost manages to get the charge off onto the base. Now here I recall a little bit of a dangerous position, but using my mobility, I'm gonna dash all the way over to here and then recall. Unfortunately, Fizz splits off from me and Tristana and hits over to the top side, which causes him to sort of get caught out by the Kha'Zix and does go down. Set basically does the same here. Manages to get the kill on Kha'Zix, but is not going to be able to survive the Zed. Here I picked up my Banshee's Veil already, so something like a Zed out or like a Kha'Zix jumping in or like a random Galio W is going to get immune in those instances. Of course, there are a lot of things that could remove the Banshee's Veil, like Jinx's Zap, for example, or a random stray Zed Shuriken, but it's always useful. It's always irritating when you have a Banshee's Veil against the enemy team. They're always going to have to remove it from you if they really want to do anything to you, and generally as a support you're not really going to be the main focus, so they shouldn't really be concentrating too much on removing your Banshee's Veil, and if they do, it should be a pretty positive situation for your team overall. So here, honestly, since we didn't see anyone on the map, I thought they could possibly be sneaking a Baron at this point. So Vi was thinking the same, and she was pinging for the Baron as well. So we were gonna go check the Baron, but it's obvious now that there is absolutely no one on the Baron. So we're still hanging around the area anyways. We don't really have a lot to lose from doing this because Set and Fizz are both pushing a lane each. So just hanging around this area and threatening the Baron is a pretty good idea to kind of force the enemy team to respond to us. Because if they don't, we could easily just start at the Baron and the enemy team would be in trouble. Now the issue here is that we've all split up. So me and Tristana are in mid, Vi and Fizz are in bot, and Set is still pushing top. So the enemy team looks like, based on the minimap, has decided to go for Set. That's why I'm pinging Set danger, because it looks like they're roaming up through the Raptors and red buff area to get to Set. In the meanwhile here, I'm just over here shadowing the top lane push. You can see that I basically managed to solo zone away the Jinx, because if she gets too close, she's going to get engaged on by me and she's going to be in trouble. Tristana manages to finish her off, and I finish off the Galio. Now here we have Mundo on the scene. Of course, I pop the Ignite to cut his healing, and Tristana manages to pick up a double kill. And you can see there that I actually did the double shield thing on Tristana to actually save her from Mundo and also save her from the Ignite at the very end. But of course, Tristana has a Blade of the Rune King in this match, so she's gonna be fine just DPSing the Baron and healing up off of attacking the Baron. Back to full health, in fact. And we do secure the Baron off of that huge team fight win. So here, I'm gonna back. Of course, I'm gonna to get the needlessly large rod building into the Rabadon's death cap, but I don't think we're really gonna get there because with the Baron buff, we should be able to finish off and close out the game. We're also pretty ahead in terms of me, Tristana, and now even the set as well as Vi. Fizz is really the only one who's kind of behind at the current moment, and we should be fine in general. If the enemy team makes a mistake, that is going to be their downfall. And here, me and Tristana are kind of camping this control warded bush to see if any of them overextend. I walk out to maintain the Baron buff on the minions to make it a lot harder for Galio and Jinx to clear. And here, we spot out a rogue. Kha'Zix gets hit by the Fizz ulti and does end up dying. Here, I decide to go for the Jinx too. I know I couldn't kill her because of this new build. Even with the old one, I couldn't kill her because of the Rakan nerfs. But I basically zoned her entirely off of the fight. I get the 2-man knockup. And here, I should have popped the Ignite on the Zed. I thought that we had the kill, so I didn't think we needed the Ignite. But Zed actually ends up, he doesn't end up escaping. But he ends up escaping for longer than he should have because I didn't pop the Ignite on him. And the reason for that is I was saving the Ignite for the Mundo, as you guys can see here. I pop the Ignite onto the Mundo, and Mundo does end up going down. And with that, we do manage to secure the victory. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and learned how to play Rakan with the new build from it. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.